What's up, everybody? This is In the Pocket, where we talk about the things and people around sports that you want to talk about. I'm Big Bob. That's Maestro. Maestro, how are you doing today?
Doing outstanding, Boo. How are you feeling, though, my friend? How are you feeling, my dude?
I'm doing great. I apologize, everybody, for the lack of an episode on Friday, like we have it scheduled. But I did end up in the hospital for a night, but here we are. We're gonna get this one up on Saturday and keep to our schedule moving forward on Fridays. But I'm doing good. I appreciate you asking, Maestro. Well, there's a lot of things going on in sports right now, but nothing bigger than March Madness. College basketball this is the biggest time of the year for them. Well, at least that's what a lot of people think, but it's not the biggest time of the year for you for college basketball. Because
No,
I know you've talked about it before about March Madness. You don't think that's where the most exciting basketball was played?
no. Big Bob. I don't. And I say it because, and you know what? Actually, you actually pulled some of the magic words out of my throat. We see the same teams. It seems though we're seeing the same teams a lot of cases, and that's kind of can be expected with certain programs just able to reload, and I get that. I think another part of it is March Madness is not owned by the NCAA; it's owned by another group. So there's its own separate marketing thing going on, which is fine too. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not being the get off my lawn guy. Okay, so let's just go and get this out of the way. The reality, though, for me, is the way the landscape has changed now more and more from the one and done players to the to the NIL, and how schools and certain places are just buying teams. They're just outright buying teams, by loading up on the cash and getting the guys in there, even if they're only going to be there for 1 year. That's fine. Again, that's the way it is now. I'm not going to say it was better back in the day when everybody played for 3 years or 4 years or whatever. Because that's what the game has grown. I will say this: Big Bob and B Ron, our boy B Ron, they really turned me around on that, looking at it differently that way. And that's something I always appreciated about, working with, people who are forward thinking. But the other thing is, for me, the most exciting part of the season is the conference play or the conference tournaments, where you see those rivalries, where you see where they've already played this school twice already. Now they're playing them for a third time, and the school energy that's into it. And it's to me, the environment is a lot less stale than what we see with March Madness. One, two, it just seems to be a lot more passion in those games. Yes, some teams are playing for the big push to move in to get into the big tournament, blah blah blah, whatever. What is it? 197 teams now enter the tournament and the playing games or whatever. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm being sarcastic. I know. I know. And I made a promise to everybody that I'll be more positive from henceforward. So I'm really gonna try. Um, but the conference tournaments where you're playing your natural rivals that you see twice home and away every season, where you were recruited against these cats and probably recruited by a lot of those teams in that conference, a lot of those players. It's just so much energy there. And that's truly the place where the magic happens, where you see a team that barely had enough wins to get into the conference tournament, especially if it's a tournament that doesn't involve everybody, to get a chance to move up and go through. And I think, and I'm not going to make this super long Maestro story because I know I can do that. I'm not going to do it now. Too late. Um, One of my years coaching at a college up in New York, I was head coach for the women's teams. I was assistant an associate coach for the men's team. And the men's team got into the regional tournament for a chance to go to the national tournament, and we were the last seed. We were the 16th seed. And so, 16 seed plays the 1 seed. We beat the 1 seed. We beat the 1 seed, and that
Nice
was a
job.
team that had previously, the year before, had actually played for the national championship for the for the junior college division. So we beat them, and the rest of the way was easy for us because we had actually played every team but one in our region. Got to the championship game. It's us, the 16 seed, and I forgot who was on the other side. It might have even been the 5 seed or something like that, because we beat the 1 seed, the 3 seed lost. Um I think it was the 5 seed, or might even been the 7 seed. And it was a team that we had actually beat twice because they were actually in our conference. We're up by 20 at halftime. And then the team had a meltdown in the locker room. We went in there. It was like the bar fight from Animal House. And that's not being hyperbolic. Is what it was. And needless to say, we lost the game. And it was one of those things of like everybody, all of the pundits, if you can say pundits for JUCO basketball, was saying with us beating that 1 seed, that we overnight became the favorite to take the tournament because of the talent that we had on that team. And it didn't happen. But it's still, though, there was a passion all the way up to the last moment that is even on the JUCO level where there is no money being spent. You're not keeping your jersey at the end of the season. You're not keeping your shorts. You're not keeping any of your uniform. Everything has to be turned in. It there, to me, there's no replacing that now. And March Madness doesn't have that anymore. So yes, I'm sorry, and I made the story way too long. So for me, the passion and the fun is in the conference tournaments, not in NCAA's. However, I have forced myself, Big Bob, my boo, to watch some of the NCAA tournament. And here's what I've seen. I've seen 4 types of basketball, and none of it's really good. I've seen the teams that have the one dominant player that they bring the ball down, get the ball to him. He makes them. So this is on the men's side. He makes his move into the paint, and then if he misses, hopefully they get the offensive rebound and get the score for that. I see the team that overpasses way too much. And everybody now thinks that they're in the NBA and they can take their time setting their feet. I've seen so many slow releases. If I can count one Mississippi and you haven't released the ball yet, if you're going to shoot, you're slow. The third brand of basketball I see is just, let's just see what happens when we get down there and see what side of the floor we line up. And you can tell, like, sometimes it's just like after that first pass, it's almost like, trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. You just no idea what's going on. And the coach is just standing there looking at everybody. And the fourth sort of basketball where you see they run everything off the same pocket, switch off, handoff basically at the top of the key until somebody cracks open, then they take a shot. And again, I'm not saying it to be negative. I really am not. I know it sounds like that, but I'm really not. I just realized that's where we are now because teams are not together that long. NIL has changed the landscape of the game where colleges are buying their lineups. The one and done players, the players that can go to the NBA. And so, Bob, I'm going to throw a question back to you. I'm going to be frank with you. The players that I hear talked about a lot that are supposed to be ready for the next level, I'm just not seeing it. And I'm willing to give that to my own prejudice about where the game is. But what are you seeing in terms of the top players now with the teams that are trying to move through the tournament? Are you seeing where someone is standing out so much so to the point where it's like beyond impressive and yeah, this guy's got a shot next level, or is it just same old, different day, different collar?
I think it's kind of the same old. You're going to have those 3 or 4 guys who are probably ready to contribute to a bad team right now.
Gotcha.
I do
Makes sense.
think that I was going to say the older uh, the Boozer twin that came out first. I think that probably he will probably be the best player coming out. Again, if he comes out, I mean, I would assume in college basketball, I feel like they're less likely to stay than college football. Depends on how much money Duke's willing to throw at him to stay around. But when
Oh,
you're
that's a good
constantly,
point.
but the problem is with teams like your Dukes, whenever Calipari had Kentucky, you didn't really need to worry about next year's talent, keeping your talent around because you already had 5 more 5 stars coming in next season to replace them. Uh,
Again,
but
yeah,
but it didn't bring
reloading.
but it didn't bring him really it didn't bring him as much success as people want that he thought it would, as many championships as he thought it would, because you don't
True that.
have that. That's why you see some of these older teams who have the juniors and seniors still there. They make it a little bit further in the tournament because they've built that connection throughout the years. Versus every single year, you got to start over. Every year, you're starting over,
Hmm.
new, got to bring new chemistry and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily feel like there's a true superstar next generational player uh, right now. But time will tell. I mean, you get guys like, I'm just going to use the Sixers for example. I was hesitant when they drafted Edgecombe. I wasn't sure what he was going to do for us, and he's playing like a top 3 rookie in the entire NBA right now. So I'm going to say I'm not the best eye for basketball because I I was just watching a video earlier, and I struggle. And this is all sports have their little things that we struggle with. But I'm watching a video where a dude takes 6 steps, and it's not a travel. Uh,
Right.
and all the jokes in the all the jokes in the comments and everything. It's oh, he just did a Euro step back, skibbity bap, skippity boop, and he's like, yeah, that's a legal play right there. But yeah, basketball for me is in general hard to watch right now, and I do hope that my
Mhm.
passion can come back for it. But with college basketball, like yeah, the star, I don't really see that generational. There's a guy right now ready for the NBA that's going to take over the
Right.
league. But I do want to jump back to you talking about the conference tournaments and stuff like that. The reason that I think those are the most exciting is that's really where you get to see these teams that might not have a chance of making the NCAA tournament
That's a
if they
good
left it
point.
up to
Yeah,
the
that's a great
voters.
point. Mhm. Mhm.
I'll use for an example the MAC. Miami, Ohio was expected to run through the MAC and be undefeated heading into the NCAA tournament. Well,
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
lost. I think they lost the second game or whatever that they played. Second or third, I can't remember. And I think it was Toledo or Akron. I think Akron. Akron ended up going and winning the tournament. So here's Akron in the NCAA tournament when they didn't have a chance before Miami, Ohio lost. Now, what
Right.
frustrates me though is then we go, oh well, Miami, Ohio's 31-1. Are they good enough to make the tournament now?
Right.
Yes. This team went 31-1. We shouldn't even be
Right.
questioning whether or not they're going to get into the tournament
Still got to win. You still got to win the
yeah,
games.
yeah, over a 17-17 SEC team or Big 10 team or whatever you want to. Yes, they
Thank
deserve
you.
to go into the tournament. You wouldn't
Mhm.
see, or when these teams go on those runs like VCU. VCU had a good year, but
Good call.
in the beginning it looked a little rocky, and now here they go. They upset North Carolina in the first round of the NCAA of March Madness. So I just love that you get to see these teams that people either gave up on or just didn't have a chance make it
Right.
into. And that's where I think a lot of that passion comes in too. Like if you have VCU playing for an A10 championship or Akron playing for a MAC championship, like their fans are going to be so much more into it because
Right.
they didn't really expect to be there and they're super excited. Um, but yeah, that for me, yeah, I don't know. I have noticed my passion just overall for college basketball kind of dwindle over the years, and I would love to have it back. I would love to have it back, but it also doesn't help that my team sucks every
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
year. We pile on the crappy out of conference games so that we can go, I don't know, 10-1 going into Big Ten play, and then we can finish the season 12-50. But
Mhm.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is what it is. My team doesn't make it easy to root and watch college basketball.
So I have two questions for you from that. So one is sort of a compound question. I guess if I have two questions and one question is already a compound question, so it's a compound question. One, when you look at basketball, when you look at a basketball player, what are like the top 5 markers or top 3 markers for you that makes you think, okay, this cat can play? One, that's part of it. The other one is I'm kind of spoiled because I love women's basketball. And for me, once you get past the first round of the NCAAs for women, you start really getting some good games across the table. Just because the nature of their sport now, they still play more of a team game across the table. Even if they have that one superstar player, the other 4 players are involved in getting that player involved. So I'm really spoiled in that um, I get a chance to really enjoy top shelf women's basketball. Um, I'll forever be a mid-major fan forever. But my years as a women's head coach, like I still have, and this is not being hyperbolic in any way. I have thousands of DVDs where I have mid-major and major women's games over the course of 5 seasons on little MP3 files. The entire so it's
Mm.
like, every DVD has 5 to 7 games, and I have thousands of them because people will record the games for me. So I 'cause I was studying, and then, of course, when I got a chance to be acting GM for one team or proposed GM for one team that was trying to get into the WNBA, another team that was getting into another pro league that never formed, and then my opportunity with a WNBA franchise that, even though it didn't occur, I still did my homework for it, where I was doing draft recruiting stuff. So I have all these games, and sometimes I'll just go back and pop those games on and watch like Dayton versus Jacksonville or whatever from back in the day, because it's still good basketball to me. So my first question is, when you see a player, men or women's player, what are your top 3 markers that you look for that makes you say, "Wow, I think this is a good player." And then on the other side, how do you feel about the women's game and where it's at?
I feel I'm going to do the second one first. I think the women's game has even less parity than the men's game. You
How
pretty
can I
much
disagree with
know.
that?
I mean, you pretty much know but again, neither of them. I feel like neither of them really have a ton of parity. But it's
Mhm,
like I'm pretty sure you know. At the end of the day, this is most likely what the Final Four is going to be every single season with the women's tournament.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
it's always going to have some form of UConn and South Carolina, probably a version
mhm,
of LSU in there.
mhm.
I do think there's even less parity, but I do agree with you. It's more of a team sport. Um, and not to say this in a negative way, but I think it's more due to the athleticism of the men's versus the women game. Um, when it comes to you don't really have that one person in the women's game who is just so athletically superior than everybody else that they have to get their teammates involved. Um,
Right.
but now jumping to your other question, for me, what really makes somebody stand out? Uh, the top two things for me are the easiest to answer. One is someone who is, no matter how good they are, willing to get their teammates involved, being able
Mhm.
to uh, pass the ball around. You're not looking to force every single shot, but really getting your teammates involved and making your teammates better. Number two is their ability to not make a scene when something doesn't go their way. And that's more of a personality thing. Does that make them a good basketball player or not? I don't know. I mean, I feel like if something doesn't go your way, you just go back out there the next time
Right, right, right.
and prove
Right,
that
right,
it
right.
should have gone your way. Um, the third one for me, it's really that guy that can he's not going to play outside of I don't want to say his skill set. So I'm going to use a player like Joel Embiid, for example, because I love him to death as a Sixers fan and he frustrates me to no other.
Mhm,
He
mhm.
plays the opposite of the way that he should play, and it hurts the team. I don't need Joel Embiid shooting five, six, seven threes a game. I need Joel Embiid to use his size and athleticism down low like a true center would, because he can do that. He can dominate games from inside, but he wants to be flashy. He wants to play again. He has the skills to shoot threes. He can make it. It's not like he's a terrible 3-point shooter, but you're hurting your team by not doing what you're out there for you. It kind of ties back into that first one. He's out there for him, trying to get his numbers up versus trying to pull in a double team down low and potentially having a teammate wide open at the point, whether he have Maxi or Edgecombe or whoever out there. But it's just a guy who you need to know your role. You have to know your role. And yes, Joel Embiid, a superstar when he's healthy, but he tries to do a little too much versus just get down low, man. Just get down low. I'm trying not to turn this into a a Sixers or a Joel Embiid um, me complaining about them. That's why I'm trying to keep my words
Yeah.
in and I'm stumbling a little bit. But it's like it's just if he would play down low like a big like the big he is, he's athletic. He'd be averaging 40 points a game. I mean, and the dude, he's so athletically gifted. It frustrates me to no end. So someone who gets their teammates involved, someone who just you're not going to see them complaining, and somebody who is just going to play their role. Those are my top three things for who I consider to be a good basketball player. Which LeBron James is one of the greatest of all time. There's no
Mhm.
denying that at all. But it frustrates me to no end when you see him flopping around like he just got shot because someone bumped into his elbow. Like that, to me, that starts knocking him down. Those are the things that keep me from saying he's the greatest of all time, because the greatest of all time isn't going to be flopping around peeking under. Oh, or do they see me? Oh, do they know I'm hurt? Like I
Yeah.
just can't get behind that stuff, and
Yeah.
that's the stuff
No,
that
you're
starts to knock it down for him.
yeah. No, you make a really good point, and I agree with you 100,000% with that. I'll say this. A lot of the same points you made, so I'm not gonna overbear them because all the things that you talked about, I definitely like and agree with in terms of what I look for in a player. But there to me, the top players have a ability to make the they have an ability to make the game appear incidental to the team's actions. When you look at great players, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar could have played with four sconces, and they were going to probably win the national championship by 12. You know, and I'll give it for Michael Jordan. I'm just going to say it. Michael Jordan is not someone else who made everybody better around him. Kobe Bryant in his way. There's certain people that so I don't compare everybody to that, but it gets a starting point for me to say how natural do you look in the game. Which brings me back to your player, which brings me to another point here, because I know we're going to talk about LeBron and something else here in a little minute. When I see a player, when I see someone who is doing what you're talking about, that whole fighting for space thing, or I see like you're a player who plays out of not necessarily out of position because you're in positionless basketball, but plays out of system where he makes it harder for his teammates. How much of that do you think is them just saying, I'm the best player on the team, I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do? And how much it is that the coach not saying, listen, I need you to do X, Y, and Z and let us build around that? Or or do you think it's some magical mirror of both?
I think that specifically with the NBA, and we call it the player. Oh, let me get the quote. The Players League, because the
Mhm.
players pretty much run the league. I think it's more that coaches are afraid to do anything about that kind of stuff. They're afraid to put their foot down and do those kind of things, and maybe that has to do with their relationships with the players. But
Right.
nobody's
Right.
going to tell
Good point.
LeBron. Nobody's going to tell LeBron what to do. Nobody's going
Good
to
point.
tell the best player on the court what to do, or you're going to risk. Well, trade me then. Trade me. If you're not going to let me do my game, then trade me, and I'll go do it somewhere else. We see it. We see it happen.
It's a
Um,
great point.
but yeah, I think it is more of the fact that the players pretty much run the league versus there being that outside entity, which obviously There's the outside entity, all this stuff. But you can't tell me the players don't run the NBA because
Right.
they do. I'll listen to arguments for it for why they don't, but everything over the last 10 to 15 years shows me that the players run the league and that everybody else is just there. But yeah,
That's
that's me. That's where I'm at on that.
no, that's a very powerful point, and I can't even add to that. I see your view, and I actually concur. I'm with you on that. One last thing about the women's tournament, if I can just say this, just because it has a really bad memory for me. Um, and I
Got to bring
will,
up the bad memories.
yeah, I got to because I should be paying our audience $80 an hour, right? Um, the 2000s, I believe it was the 2007 women's national tournament. It's when Tennessee beat Rutgers uh, for Pat Summitt's first championship in a long time. Team that had Candace Parker on it, and blah blah blah, whatever. And I was in love with that. I mean, I love Pat Summitt in Tennessee, of course, but I was really, really in love with Coach Stringer from Rutgers because of what she had done a couple of years before with her team when she never got a significant ranking. And I'm going to need everybody to fact check me on this, but she went through number one seed LSU. I think she beat LSU when they were a number one seed. She beat Texas when they were a top 5 seed. I don't remember what it was. She beat Tennessee when they were a top 10 seed. She beat UConn when they were a top 5. And I think this was the 2004-2005 season. Please, again, Maestro, check me on this. But she beat Ohio State when they were ranked, I think, in the top 5 or top 2 or whatever. She beat Kentucky. Kentucky wasn't ranked, but Kentucky was on their way to be ranked. And then all of a sudden, she put together a team that didn't have a single dominant player that went through all the top teams in basketball that year. So I was really that I always liked her coaching style, but that kind of made me love her more. So when she finally gets to the finals in 2000, I think it was 2007 or whatever it was, against Tennessee, I was really heartbroken because I knew Tennessee was going to take it that year. I was kind of heartbroken for her because I really wanted her to get that championship, especially with all that she had gone through personally. You can look that up too. But so please fact check me on that. But the reason that season is not because Rutgers didn't win the championship in whatever was 2007. It was I had a perfect bracket, and I was off for the final game score by 3 points for the winning team, 2 points for the losing team, and I was it was a 500 and something dollar pot that we did amongst the coaches and teachers at the school. And that was the year Rick Neuheisel got busted with winning the bracket when he was I think he was at Colorado. And because of that, the AD pulls me aside and says, dude, we can't do that. I'm like, then fire me and give me my money.
Give me my $500.
Give me my $500, man. But so I said that was a bad memory year for me. But it was still so cool because it was great to see Pat Summitt win, and even though CB Stringer, so I think it was 2007. So please, I hope
I did. I looked. I
okay.
checked. It is 2007.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just to me, the one thing about women's basketball is you still can get those moments where certain teams will never get significantly ranked, but still be mega dangerous throughout the year just because of what it is. And that's what I like. That's all it is. I just say that. So, okay, off that soapbox, moving on.
Well, let's you go.
So hopefully everybody who's watching the games or whatever, hopefully you're enjoying them. Please let us know what you think about what you're seeing right now in the March Madness tournament. If you're watching, if you're not watching, what are you watching right now? I'm also watching hockey too because I love hockey. It's my second favorite sport. So second or third favorite sport. So but yeah, so yeah, just tell us what you're watching. Just hey, talk to your boys. I like your boys.
Let's round this out with who is your Final Four for this year's bracket for March Madness?
Well, I tell you what, Duke almost blew it for my Final Four. North Carolina certainly did. Bunch of chumps. Anyway, no, I'm just not. I'm joking. So my Final Four happens to be Duke and Florida, last year's champion. On the men's side, anyway, Duke and Florida and Arizona and UVA, and I have Arizona winning the national championship over University of Florida. And on the women's side, I'm just gonna cut right to the chase. I have South Carolina finding a way to pull it in this year and get another one. Just what Dawn Staley has done with that program, watching her do what she's done from the start, I just find incredibly amazing. And yes, I'm sorry, I am completely 100,000% fanboying all over her because I always have, even as a player in the WNBA, I've fanboyed over her. She just how tough she was. She was like Allen Iverson without the bad language. Well, I take that back. She probably had more bad language than he had. But it's just I loved her as a player. I had a chance to assist and coach in a few clinics in the WNBA, and she was, as little as I knew about basketball, she was always very gracious. And so, I'm just basically I've fanboyed over her my whole life. So, but seeing her as a coach and the way she's now developing and moving young ladies into becoming young women. I just find amazing. It reminds me a lot of what Pat Summit did. So I have them getting another one there. If I can speak painfully honest about something else here on that side, I think that we're more apt, as you said, to get a surprise off the men's side of the bracket than we are off the women's side of the bracket, more so this year, just because certain teams like South Carolina, LSU is always strong. Anyway, when you have like a coach that could also be a Marine drill sergeant, the way LSU has with Kim Mulkey, it's just what it is. So, but yeah. I mean, I'm finding fun in watching certain games, but I always fall into my happy zone whenever I get a chance to watch the women's tournament. So yeah, there we
Well,
go.
I'll give my women's pick real quick. I see UConn. I mean, it's just one of those things where I can't deviate too far from the norm on the women's side. So I think UConn's
Right,
going
right.
to pick it up. How many would that be for Oriema?
193,
I was going to
197.
who know? We lost count. We lost
Yeah,
count.
right, exactly. And
Um,
you know what? He had two of my favorite players. I'm going to be honest about it. This is going to go way back in the day. Nikisha Sales. Look her up. She was probably one of the first women players outside of my community that I looked at and went like, "Oh my dear goodness, she could play anywhere." Um, and probably my next favorite women's player was who played with Tennessee. She actually played with Tennessee was Shamika Holtzclaw, because as good as she was in college is what she was in high school. So, but yeah, but yeah, you're right. Ariema has definitely built something there at UConn that's beyond special, and he still will never get the media attention that he should get because it's women's basketball. It's just the way it is. It's the way it is. Boys are dumb, and we make everything about us. And the fact that look at the success of the people who've come through his program in business, in their professional lives, and that says something about what he does there. And I'm just going to leave it there. So I'm sorry. I mean, I apologize. I didn't mean to step on you like that, but
no, you're good. So I'll jump to my Final Four, which I did post on all of our social medias, but I'm a little skeptical right now of it. I still got all four teams in, so that's the good thing is I got Duke playing Houston and Arizona playing Texas Tech, and I got Duke winning it all. However,
ah,
Duke was the only
woo,
team that scared me to in the
struggling,
first round.
struggling,
Yeah,
struggling,
I don't know.
struggling,
So
not struggling, struggling.
I can see them getting bounced out in the second or third round, but I'm shaking a little bit on that. The other ones I'm not too worried about. But Duke, my winner, is the one that I'm worried about now. So hopefully they can get it together. Like I said, but that's going back. But that's going back to our conversation earlier. As you're asking about,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
guys that are ready to go to the NBA now. If you're
Hmm.
truly ready to go into the NBA now, your team isn't going to struggle against a 16 seed. It's just not.
Yeah,
It's just not.
yeah, yeah.
Like, sorry, I cut you off. You were going to ask a question.
Oh no, 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 no. No, I wasn't. I was actually living all of your statement and how much I agree with it and how funny I thought it was in that Duke, how odd it is for some of our younger listeners, which is all of y'all probably, there was a time you couldn't mention Duke without mentioning Final Four. And the knock on Duke was they couldn't win the big one. They couldn't win the championship. And then when they finally did, the floodgates opened. But it was almost like obligatory. You could pencil Duke all the way to the Final Four every year. And I had a high school teammate who went to Duke and probably in 4 years played 7 minutes and got 2 rings. I'm sorry, he played Phil, I'm messing with you, Phil. He played more than 7 minutes. He probably played 9.
Hey, but
He's
regardless,
yeah,
he no matter how many
he got yes,
no
he
matter how
did.
many minutes he played at Duke and he got 2 rings.
And
That's it.
he puts it in our he would put it in our face all the time, and rightfully so. He earned it. He earned it. But what I just found amazing was it was, "Yeah, but Duke. Yeah, but Duke. Yeah, but Duke." And then all of a sudden Duke started winning, and it's like all of a sudden they became the team that everybody hated,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Because Krzyzewski and people made fun of Krzyzewski's name and how he did, whatever, just stupid. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse, but it's just what it is. But it to say Duke struggling just feels funny in my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no.
But that's the same way. That's the same with North Carolina too. It's just ever since
Yes.
once the two legendary coaches left, everybody questioned what's going to happen. And it's like, well, it's Duke and North Carolina. They're going to be all right. Well, they haven't
Right.
been as all right as people thought they were going to be. But they're still going to bring in that top end talent because it's Duke and North Carolina. At the end of the day, they're still going to get the talent. They're still going to have the opportunity to be the top teams in the league. So
we need to do a whole episode. I want to take more time here. We need to do a whole episode on on how NIL has reshaped teams like that.
mm,
Because when you have because when you have schools of lesser history, I'm gonna say it that way to not make it sound pejorative, but teams with lesser history going out and shelling out 10 million for a bunch of 5-star recruits
yeah.
or whatever, 20 million. I mean, I don't even know what the going rate is, but
It,
all of us, it can ruin a season for a team like a Duke or North Carolina or whoever else you expect to be there in that final thing, because all of a sudden now they're playing some mid-major school that has like a G League payroll.
Yeah, but I'm going to
And
jump. It's funny. I do want to jump though to college football for a second, bringing that up.
yeah.
But then you can
Hmm.
look at teams like JMU who lost their entire team because their coach left, and they were just as good, if not better, the following season. But it's also that's
Great point.
JMU. That's not. That's not. I was going to say Florida, but Florida hasn't been Florida for 10 years. But yeah, you do look, and
Gotcha.
it's not just the NIL. It's the fact that players can pretty much transfer without any kind of consequences. Iowa State lost Matt Campbell to Penn State, and I think what the number ended up being 30 or 31 players left Iowa State to follow him to Penn State. So it's like, what is
Hmm.
that? Iowa at one point, I think Iowa State had 15 scholarship players left on their team. So it's like, what is this whole? It's not just the NIL; it's the whole new era of college sports. You haven't seen that a whole lot yet with college basketball. Now, well, I can't say that. We saw it with Penn State when they took
I
Rhodes
know what you
from
mean, though. Yeah.
VCU, but it's on
Yeah.
it's on a much
Yeah.
bigger scale because instead of there being 15 players, it's 85 or 105. I think it's
Right.
100 or
Right.
105 now or whatever it is.
Right. Right.
But it's
Right.
also it would be more decimating to a college basketball team though because yeah, although it's only a handful more or a handful of players, that one or two star player that leaves could completely destroy that team.
Right.
Versus if
And
a quarterback leaves Penn State, we're just going to get another quarterback from somewhere
no
else.
quarterback. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Basketball. You're right. If I have two incredibly solid top tier players, if I have two, I can really work around. If I got three, I got extra. You have one kind of like BYU situation. Have BYU had one really good player. Cannot pronounce the kid's last name, and they were leaning on him all night. And Texas did what they did by playing team ball and just basically ran over them. Um, but but if I got two, now I got a fighting chance to to drag you into the phone booth and make it a harder fight, no matter how much talent you might have. You're absolutely right. I agree with that, and I think our listeners kind of got where was picking up where you were putting down there too, because it made sense. Um, how with a basketball team, it's easier to reshape even around an amazing player. It's easier to reshape a team as opposed to a football team where you really need, we're talking about 7 or 8 players in total on both sides. Well, not necessarily on both sides of the ball, but solid quarterback, good receiver, to tight end or running back, depending on how you do it. You definitely need your O line. I mean, I guess I wasn't far off when I said maybe 5 to 7 players on each side of the ball.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, Maestro, I love talking to you as always. If nothing else, I do this so we can talk and just
yeah,
spout off whatever we want to talk about, and just if other people
yeah.
enjoy listening to us ramble on, then
Mhm,
good for
mhm.
them. We appreciate them for listening. But do you have any final words for the people?
I'll say this, and I always say thank you, and I'm going to continue to say thank you, and I'm never going to leave it for granted that you guys take the time to listen to us. And especially when you guys share what you listen to or what you want us to what you want to hear us talk about, it really means a lot because that means you care to hear enough about what we think about, what we ramble about, and yes, we eventually get around to answering your questions, hopefully,
Yep.
because Bob and I wanted this show to be a debate.
Yeah.
I want it to be a debate with you guys. Where no paywall, no screens, no nothing. You can write us directly and say, "Hey, dude, when you said this about this, here's why I see, or here's how I feel, or I think you're kind of, off base. So no, you know what? I find myself agree, whatever. I mean, it's more fun when you disagree because then we can have a real like back and forth. But if you agree with us, fine too. That's fine too.
Yeah.
But change our minds. Change our minds.
Yeah.
I'm definitely cool with that. So I want to say that. And the other thing I want to say is, baseball season's almost here, and yay.
I feel like it just ended like 2 weeks ago. I feel
No,
like baseball's around more than than football is, and football feels like it's a year-round sport.
if any sport has found a way to be 365 days a year like the NFL. Because I mean, just think about this. Think about this. How little the NBA start of the NBA season is talked about. I mean, let's be real about it. Outside opening day, how little the NBA season is talked
I
about.
mean, the honestly, the biggest thing in the NBA season, like the next biggest thing is the Christmas Day games. And that's the
Boom.
big thing you're talking about.
And then what happened? We forget about it until after the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So again, think about how we don't lose the World Series.
Yeah.
Now, what does that tell you now? What does that tell you with even the hardcore fans for the NBA? And I know we're wrapping it up here, but what does that tell you about the hardcore fans for the NBA? How it still doesn't match with the hardcore with even just the baseline fans for the NFL and for baseball. Like there's still a thing about baseball, even with the new challenging of the this and the new this and the bigger bases and the blah blah blah, whatever, the pitch clock and yada yada yada, all this other stuff, which by the way had been done in the league before already. People just forgot about it because men are dumb and we forget the fact that there are actually rules for the game before we watch the game.
Yeah.
But even with all of that, there's still a day-to-day routine about, and I think that's what I like about playing baseball so much. There's a day-to-day life routine about the game of baseball that you don't have any other sport.
Hmm.
Football is once a week, so that's why every Sunday becomes an event, or every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday now become an event day for your team, especially if your team is playing. But people just watch the NFL arbitrarily because there's only 32 teams. It's not so many teams. It's only so few games. But baseball, like, I can catch a game on the radio, or I can flick a game here, or even if I miss my team playing early, I can watch somebody play later. And it's just there's a comfort to that routine that baseball provides, that, to kind of get like James Earl Jones, the comfort that we feel when we see the game. We appreciate life unto itself. Or Morgan Freeman. And then we gotta do what we do. And it's so I'm really excited about baseball season starting up this year. I'm really excited to see where, like, my team, the Braves, I'm really excited to see what they're going to do. But also, there are a couple other teams that have made some signings that I find really interesting that I can see what they're going to do. We're not going to waste time now, like I've already have. But yeah, guys and ladies, especially Barbara, I see you. Let us know, man, what you want to hear. Let us what you want to talk about. Yell at us about something. I don't know. Let's have some fun, y'all.
Well, the one thing we didn't mention, what level is Lucas at right now?
Oh,
What
whoa.
what's five? Super
Oh,
super super.
Lucas, super quadruple uranium, plutonium, iridium status of elite fun amazingness
Sounds about
with
right.
us with a side of cheese fries. We
Well,
got you,
yeah,
Lucas.
we got. I also do want to thank one of my former coworkers, John, for dropping about 4 or 5 questions for us for that Hot Ones Challenge episode.
Oh, nice,
I'm
nice, nice. Thanks.
He's a big Pittsburgh fan just in general, so a
Uh-oh.
lot of his questions are
Uh-oh.
Pittsburgh related. So we might
Oh,
merge
boy.
them into merge a couple of the questions into one. But either way, it'll still be fun. But I appreciate him getting them questions out for us.
Thank you,
But
buddy.
Maestro, I appreciate you as always, and everybody that listens. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day or week.